Hi YouTube, this is Mike, Gray1951, and I'm here to do the weekly chat. A few days late, but it has a great topic this week. The topic is, when do we call a movie or a film or a movie? And when do we call it a film? When do we call it a movie? How do we decide what we call those little cinematic works of art, films or movies? Okay, that's the question, badly put. But in order to answer this, I turned to the dictionary. Not the Webster's Dictionary. This is the Film Snobs Dictionary, okay? Film Snobs Dictionary, which is a great little book. Everybody in this little group needs to get a copy of this book. It's just priceless. And do I think of myself as a film snob? Are you kidding? You could put my picture on the cover of this book. So anyway, so it actually has a little chapter in this, movies versus films, or I'll read you some of them. When Billy Crystal gets the urge to direct, he makes a movie. When Clint Eastwood gets the urge to direct, he makes a film. Okay? It's a film. No, wait. It's a movie if its makers slipped lots of amusing stuff into the end credits so you'd stay behind to watch them. It's a film if its end credits are normal, boring end credits, but everyone around you stays to watch them anyway. Okay? Bruce Willis, a movie guy, gained film credibility by being in Pulp Fiction. Steve Buscemi, a film guy, gained movie credibility by being in Armageddon. Okay? Let's see. A John Grisham novel becomes a crappy movie. A Gabriel Garcia Marquez novel becomes a crappy film. The Coen brothers are movie buffs who make films. Here we go. Here's a good one. It's a movie if its male lead is hurled through plate glass. It's a film if its male lead has sexual urgings for young boys, his sister, or his mother. That's kind of creepy. Yeah. Okay. Let me read you one more. Let's see. Okay. Tom Waits will never ever make a movie. Tom Hanks will never ever star in a film. I don't know if I agree with that one. Anyway, that's part of this little fun book, and it's one way of answering this question. Really, I would have to say that for me, the terms are basically interchangeable. I can use the term movie and film in the same sentence talking about the same thing. So it's not that big of a deal for me. But I do understand that, I guess, people use the sophisticated term film if something is on a higher level of appreciation. Now, certainly, everything put out by the Criterion Collection and everything I have on my Criterion Collection shelf here at home, I would call a film. But there are criterions and then there are criterions, right? For example, La Ventura by Michelangelo Antonioni is most definitely a film, all right? But then in the Criterion Collection, you also have The Blob with Steve McQueen, which is certainly not quite in the same category as something like La Ventura or anything else by Antonioni. But man, and what a great movie. I mean, everybody loves this, right? It's a great, great film, movie, whatever you want to call it. So I guess it's been raised to the level of something a little more than just a silly science fiction or horror film. Also Carnival of Souls, which is looked upon as being a classic cult film and a classic movie and a classic horror film all at the same time. So I guess this kind of goes into the category of both. This could also be called a flick, which to me is slightly less. Well, no, it's a movie, but it's something that is low budget and fun and meant to be schlocky at the same time, right? But you can still love movies like that. Now, this movie Seconds by John Frankenheimer is most definitely a film, but it's also a Rock Hudson movie. Now, Rock Hudson was an actor who never made films other than this. He made movies. So I think that making this film did not necessarily raise Rock Hudson to the level of being a film star rather than a movie star, even though we did a very good job in this. So that's just my own personal opinion. Now, going to some other actors. For example, Bette Davis, one of my favorites. This is a film, a Bette Davis film from 1941, The Little Foxes, which was directed by William Wyler. This is a great, great, great movie slash film, whatever you want to call it, based on a play by Lillian Hellman. It's one of the most powerful and unsympathetic performances Bette Davis ever gave, and she received an Academy Award nomination for this. Now, in the same year, Bette Davis made this movie, The Great Lie. which is definitely not on the level of The Little Foxes. I mean, this is a classic soap opera, woman's picture, and it has a plot line that is so unbelievable. It takes every bit of emoting that Bette Davis can possibly muster to make it believable, and she was very good at it. It's great fun to watch, although it certainly is not, you know, on the level, like I just said, the level of The Little Foxes. Now, let's do Joan Crawford. I know a lot of you have always wanted to do Joan Crawford. Well, maybe not. Okay, this is a Joan Crawford film. From the year 1947, she made this film called Possessed, which is a classic example of film noir and a great, great performance by Joan Crawford. She received an Academy Award nomination for this, and it's really wonderful. So, Dave Kay, if you're watching, you need to put this on your film noir to watch list, because it's really a great, great film. Now, this is a Joan Crawford movie. It's called Reunion in France, which was made in, I think, 41 or 42 when she was still at MGM, and her co-star is John Wayne, which is an interesting pairing of movie stars. But in this one, Joan Crawford gives her usual good performance, and she also looks beautiful and wears beautiful clothes. But it certainly is not a classic film, right? It's just a very enjoyable movie. And I forgot to bring, I was going to talk about a Joan Crawford movie that I would call a flick, which I would say anything she made in the 1960s after Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, same goes for Bette Davis, would have to be classified as being flicks rather than films or movies. And I was going to bring down Straight Jacket, which came out in 1964, which is a terrific, enjoyable, schlocky, low-budget horror film. And Joan Crawford is also very good in, but it certainly is not a film. It's more like a flick, but it's a lot of fun. And also, anything featuring Mamie Van Doren, if you remember her, the blonde bombshell from the 50s and early 60s, anything Mamie Van Doren appeared in was definitely not a film. And sometimes they weren't even movies, but they were just flicks. For example, it was Untamed Youth from the 1950s, or all the way up to The Navy versus the Night Monsters in 1966, which is a classic bad horror film. Definitely flicks. Let's see, what else did I want to say? What else did I want to babble about? Probably nothing. But yeah, I think that I started, well, when I was growing up, in the time and place that I was growing up, we always talked about, when we went to the movies, we talked about going to see a show. That was our terminology for a movie, right? And I can use that term to this day. In fact, I did, in a couple of videos I did fairly recently, I talked about the difference between seeing a movie on home video and seeing it at the show, because that's the way we used to talk about it. Do you want to go to see a show? And it occurred to me after I made the video, maybe a lot of people never heard that terminology and they wouldn't know what I was talking about, but I could be wrong. But after a while, as I grew up into being a teenager, we talked about going out to the movies, and then I think I never really picked up the term film until in the 70s, when I started taking things more seriously. I started reading a lot of books about movies and films and directors and actors, and I found that most directors would refer to their work as making films. And I don't think I ever heard an interview with Bette Davis, and I've listened to maybe 50 interviews with Bette Davis. She never talks about any of her work as movies. She talks about her films. So it was easy just to kind of pick up on that terminology. And I suppose in a way some people use it to be a little bit pretentious, and I probably do that too, because I can be very pretentious if I try. And sometimes I don't try and I'm still being very pretentious. But yeah, I can see the designation of a film versus a movie and a flick. So anyway, I guess that's all I wanted to say. So thank you for watching. Oh, comments are welcome. Almost forgot to say that this time. Okay, see ya.